Good evening, everybody, and a very, very, very happy New Year. We haven't met since last year, which is a long, long time. I've missed you guys, and I wish to wish you the very best in 2021. It's going to be a much better year than last year for sure. We think and we pray. So, thank you very much for joining us again. This is Dr. Jen Wakahe. Speaking on the platform of She Chooses to Live. And like I keep saying, She Chooses to Live is a platform that wants to give people knowledge so that they make right choices in life, especially where health is concerned. They make the right choices. So it's a forum that has many people, including a tech guy here. He is called Mariam Jokiwakahe. She also is within that organization, and many other people who are in the background who help alongside. So thank you very, very much for again coming. We want to speak today about something, but before we do that, we will just stand with the people who have got cancer. January was the cancer month, and yesterday was the World Cancer Day, all kinds of cancer. As you people know, in She Chooses to Live, we are very, very passionate about cervical cancer, which is preventable cancer, which is actually one of the very, very few preventable cancers. The other cancers, you catch them early, you can deal with them, but cervical cancer, you can prevent it from actually happening. So we would want to stand with people who are either recovering or we don't like to call them survivors. We call them to call them that they have really, really overcome and they have succeeded. They are overcomers, not survivors. So for everybody who is out there with cancer, we wish you the very best, and we pray that it will not have gone too far for it to be curable. We like to hear that people got cured indeed. So here is my tech guy. I don't know if she wants to say Happy New Year to everybody. Yeah.
Happy New Year.
So all of us are welcome. What we are going to discuss today is something that a lot of women have asked me about, and this is when can they conceive? And because I want a lot of women to conceive, so we are going to discuss about fertility and what is called the fertility window, because we need to know about around when somebody is fertile and when they can get pregnant. So here goes fertility window. What is fertility to start with? Fertility is actually the ability to conceive, and that statement ends there. But it's the ability to conceive and hopefully finally get children. So that is what fertility is. And what happens during fertility is that the female egg, also known as the ovum, is met and harassed by the male sperm. I mean harassed because it's actually poked and penetrated through its skin, until it is made into one with the sperm. So when that happens, then fertilization has occurred. And this usually will happen in what is called the fallopian tube. So the sperm will swim all the way to the fallopian tube to meet an egg. Now, so fertilization is when egg is met by sperm, and when they actually get together. It's not all the time that egg meets sperm that the sperm will be able to penetrate into the egg and make a baby. So we are talking about when that actually happens, the actual sperm actually penetrates into the tissue of the egg to be able to make a baby. Now, the fertile window, and those are what is the fertile window is the number of days that it is possible in a woman's cycle to actually be able to conceive a baby. and there are a number of days that the, there are greater chances for the sperm to be able to meet an egg. And these days actually last only about 4 to 6 days in a cycle, in a woman's cycle. It's not every day that a woman can conceive. In their cycle, they have a window of about 4 to 6 days to conceive. Now let's recoup a bit because we are talking about a woman's cycle and we are talking, I mean, menstrual cycle. That's the cycle I'm talking about. So let's recoup a bit about menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle means from the day one starts period to the next day the next period starts. It has nothing to do with the number of days that one bleeds. You can bleed for 2 days, you can bleed for 7 days. Those are not counted. We count from day one of starting period to day one of starting the next period. That is what is called a cycle. Now, the normal periods last, the normal cycles in normal women who are naturally menstruating last between 21 and 35 days. And the actual bleeding can last as little as 1.5 days to 7 days, and that is actually normal. Now, every woman has their kind of cycle. Let's say every woman has their kind of unique cycle, and it will stay fairly that way unless there are some circumstances that could change her cycle, and this would be very, very major emotional upheavals. For example, if somebody lost a loved one, then there is upheaval to their cycle, and that can change it very much. Or if somebody had a very, very severe climate change, like we are used to being in the sun, if we happen to be thrown into winter, we might change our cycle. And also, if somebody is using some hormonal contraception or any type of hormone, then that cycle can change. But if those are not, if somebody is in their own natural way, every woman has their own cycle, maybe plus minus a day or two, but a kind of regular cycle. Now, to know one's cycle, one needs to track their periods for a period of at least 6 months to a year. That is tracking the first day to the first day, and then the first day to the first day for 6 months to a year. Then one is able to sort of get what kind of cycle they have. Now, when we come to the fertile window, we want to find that there is ovulation that is occurring. Now, ovulation means that the egg is being released into the system and can be fertilized. This ovulation usually happens 14 days before the next period. So if we use periods, we can only track backwards and say, if I got my period today, the 1st of February, then I ovulated 14 days ago. It is, you don't, the time between starting of period and ovulation changes for every woman and is different for every woman. But when the egg actually does come out for every woman, it takes about 14 days for the egg, if the egg is not fertilized, for periods to come. So that the constant time is from the time of shedding out the egg to the time of the period. But from the time of the period to the shedding out of the egg, that's unique for every woman. So, for example, if you hear women say they ovulate on 14 days, on day 14, and that is day 14 starting from the first day they got their period. But those are only women who have a cycle of 28 days. So that when they do ovulate, they still have 14 days to go. If a woman has a cycle of 21 days, that is, they see their period on 1st of February, and then they see their next period on the 21st of February, then it means they are ovulating on day 7, because that leaves 14 days for the egg to stay before the period comes. So for women who are 21 days, you can actually finish your period today, day 6, and ovulate tomorrow. So one needs to actually know their cycle very well. If you are a 25-day cycle, then again it follows you'll ovulate on day 11, because then there are 14 days to go to the next period. And if you are a 35-day cycle, then one will not ovulate until day 21, because then there are 14 days. And that is day 21 from the beginning of the period. You count 21 days, then you ovulate, and then 14 days later, you get another period. So that's how the cycle is counted. So every woman has their own unique cycle. Now, let's talk about the egg. This egg that we are talking about is actually microscopic. It's something you cannot see with your naked eye. What the ovary does is it floats that microscopic egg in a balloon full of water. Now, this balloon is called a follicle, and it is on the surface of the ovary. Ovary are the eggs of what produces the eggs. So the ovary floats a little microscopic egg, an egg you cannot see with your eye, in a balloon full of water called the follicle. And when the balloon gets big enough, it bursts, and then it releases that egg into around the area of the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube that time is ready and waiting. So if it is open from all the way from the fibrio end, that is where the fallopian tube looks like a mouth, then it picks the egg and takes it to the itself, inside itself, and that's where it is fertilized. So and the egg, this particular egg, or any egg, once it is released, the egg survives for 24 hours. After 24 hours, that egg is actually dead. And even more important is that the fertilizability of the egg declines as we go towards the 24-hour. So that the first few hours, the egg is more easily fertilizable than towards the tail end of the 24 hours, then it becomes less fertilizable. So and specifically, we have a window of 6 days, but there is only 24 hours within which fertilization actually does happen. And that is when there are 24 hours of the release of the egg. Then let's talk about the sperm. The sperm is the male egg, call it the male egg. It is also actually microscopic. For each ejaculation that a man ejaculates when they're having sex, they throw out they ejaculate on average about 200 million sperms that is carried within that ejaculate. The minimum normal actually that a man ejaculates is 20 million. Now you can imagine there are 200 million animals. They look like, you don't know how they look because they are microscopic, but they swim. They have a big head and a very long tail, a very thick head and a very long tail. And that thick head is what goes to penetrate the wall of the egg when they meet the egg. So you can imagine 200 million men swimming towards one ka woman, one ka egg, and it's only one ka sperm, one ka man that will be able. Well, let's call him the man because he's the one who is able to finally fertilize that egg. So the rest of the sperms are just escorts for the one that will finally win the prize of the egg. Now, the sperm is a lucky one. It is able to live in the female genital tract for between 3 and 4 days. So if somebody does something on the 1st of February, then it is possible that sperm is still hanging around on the 4th of February. And if an ovulation happens on the 4th of February, then it is possible to fertilize that egg. So the sperm is got a long life survival life as compared to the egg, which egg lives 24 hours. Sperm can live up to 4 days, and they survive um, fairly strongly. They are still able to fertilize. They are not usually like the egg that goes being less easily fertilizable. These men, they really do stay able to fertilize. So how does the 6 day cycle come? If we count that the sperm can live for 4 days, and we count that the egg lives 24 hours, and then we count that a woman is not really quite a computer. She can ovulate. You can be expecting her to ovulate today, but she ovulates tomorrow. So that's how the 6 day window, fertility window, becomes 6 days. So it is in 6 days time that somebody can be able to get pregnant. Now, having said all that, one cannot see inside themselves, so they don't really know when they are ovulating. So how are we able to predict that ovulation is either about to uh, get to happen or not? Because you see, what we need ovulation window is either to make a baby, so we want to know when the egg is there to be able to be fertilized, or alternatively to know that ovulation is happening and not have sex so that we do not make a baby. So the people who use natural family planning, that's what they use also. Instead of wanting to make fertility, then they want to remove fertility. So we need to know forwards when the egg is going to come out, uh, because knowing backwards, that is too late. Knowing that after when the period has come, we ovulated 14 days, that will not help. But if we were to know forwards when the egg is going to come out, then we can either prevent ourselves from getting pregnant, or we can um, make the best of times, especially for people like people who travel, people whose husbands travel, women who wives travel. So if we want to make them have the best chance of conceiving, then there is that time of that window that we want to tell them to meet and have sex. Or if we wanted them not to make a baby, then there is that window that again we would say avoid this window. Now, what there are some body signs that tell a woman that she is about to ovulate or has just ovulated. And these are quite a number. I don't know how many of you have heard of what is called the base of body temperature. Every woman has a certain body temperature and certain normal body temperature. And when ovulation is about to happen or happens, then the body temperature rises by about a degree. So if somebody was to track their body temperature every day, there will come a time when it will rise, and that is the time that she'll either will want to have sex if she wants to make a baby, or have avoided 4 days before if she doesn't want to have a baby. This body temperature is taken at sometime in the morning before one gets out of bed, because one gets out of bed, then the temperature changes. So if you want to know the normal base of body temperature, you do it in the morning before you get out of bed, and then when you see the spike, then you know that the ovulation is about to happen or is happening, and this is because of some hormonal changes. Then the second one is some thin, slippery mucus that comes out of the vagina. And this one is very stretchy. It is like the actual mucus of the nose, except this one is clear, very clean and clear. And if you, when as doctors, when we look inside the vagina and look at the cervix, you see it dripping out of the cervix. And this acts as a very nice superhighway for to pick the sperm and to let them swim through the cervix and on the way to fertilizing the lady that is waiting for them at the fallopian tube. So this mucus is visible to quite a number of women. A lot of women will tell you when they are actually ovulating. Sometimes it pops out like pop. You can feel your vagina just expand and let a big mucus plug out. That is usually ovulation mucus. Then some women experience some slight lower abdominal pains when they are ovulating, and especially if the ovulation happens to, if the balloon that was holding the egg happens to burst through a small blood vessel and there is some blood that is spilled around where the intestines are, then there is quite a bit of lower abdominal pain. Then the most common one is increase in libido. When ovulation is about to happen, then a woman gets very hot. She wants to have sex at that time. Another thing is that there may be a bit of bleeding, a bit of spotting of blood through the vagina. Unfortunately, many couples will avoid having sex when there is spotting. That is called mid-cycle spotting, and that is the time when the ovulation is happening. And some couples who are actually even looking for babies will avoid that time to make love, to have sex, because they are seeing blood. It is slimy, it is bloody, and the woman is having a bit of pain. If you're looking for a baby and you see some slimy mucus that has blood, that is the time to actually have sex, not the time to avoid sex. The other thing is that for some women, the vulva and the vagina feel swollen. They actually get a bit swollen. They have a lot of blood supply to them. And then there is also the breasts, the nipples and the breasts feel a bit engorged and a bit tender. So those are the natural ways that one can guess, or not guess, can track to decide whether they are ovulating or not. And if these signs happen and no fertilization happens, then 14 days later, one will receive a period. So you can always tell, once you see these signs, to be able to know whether you are ovulating, count 14 days later and see if you get a period. Now, this is the technology era, and the women I'm talking to about Fertility Window are not my age, because me, I don't need a Fertility Window no more. But the women who I'm talking to would be like my tech guy, and they are gadget oriented, they are technologically oriented. So there's some gadgets that one can use to try to track when they are ovulating. And the commonest and the most kind of accurate is the one called ovulation predictor kits. This is something that uses urine. Once urine, this kit is bought, you use it like the way one tests for pregnancy, home pregnancy kit. But this one is an ovulation prediction kit. And what one does is test the urine in it, and there is a way that it changes. The urine, just about 12 to 36 hours before ovulation happens, there is a hormone called luteinizing hormone that really goes up. And that one is the one that is picked in that urine. And once it goes up, it tells you that in the next day or so, you are going to be ovulating. And that is when to now start. It's a fairly accurate gadget. If one uses it correctly, it is used at around the same time. The urine has to be picked between noon and 8 p.m. The other thing one needs to do is, and why that time is because in the morning, there is a natural surge of luteinizing hormone, LH, the hormone that this particular gadget measures. And one can have a false positive. One can be told they're ovulating even when they are very far away from the ovulation day. So it has to be a consistent time to pick the urine in the afternoon between noon and 8 p.m. And the other thing is, because one needs a concentration of that urine, is to not pass urine for about 2 hours before one does the test. This predictor thing actually does predict almost to 97% that ovulation is going to happen um, within the next day or so. So for people who want to make babies, that's a good one. For people who want to avoid babies, that's not really a good one if you had sex the day before or the 2 days before. But for people who want to have babies, then yes. So who should not really use this uh, predictor gadgets? And those are the people who have absolutely very irregular periods for whatever reason it is. People who have polycystic ovaries, those ones, their hormones are a bit different from the natural up and down. And people who are on drugs, and this includes antibiotics. If people are on antibiotics, then this gadget will give the wrong kind of reading. So we have talked about the natural ways to know that one is ovulating, and we have talked about some technological ways. I've given you just what is the more accurate of the technological ones, the others that use saliva and others, but that the ovulation predictor is the most accurate. Now, when must you not try to find the ovulation window? Because if you try to use the ovulation window at that particular time, then you're likely to fail and to get either pregnant or to fail to get pregnant, whichever it is that you're trying to do. And the times you don't use the fertility window as a timeline is after delivery, immediately after delivery, until the periods are back and regular. Then the ovulation after delivery is a bit haphazard. Some people will start ovulating within 6 weeks. Some people will not start ovulating for 2 years. So this is not a time to use a fertility window. This is a time to avoid getting pregnant by other methods, not by counting days. Then soon after stopping a hormonal contraception, the body changes are such that one has to wait until there is regular periods again before one can use the fertility window. Then at around perimenopause, just before women get to menopause, you will notice quite a number of women who get accidentally pregnant. And that is because they are trying to avoid pregnancy by predicting when they are going to ovulate. Now, around just before one hits menopause, the ovulation becomes quite irregular and erratic. So if you are used to ovulating on day 15, that could change to day 25. And then you get pregnant when you're thinking you're getting your period in 5 days. So at perimenopause, around menopause, not during menopause, at around perimenopause, before quite menopause hits, when the eggs are still erratically coming, then you don't use the fertility window. And then when you you have very irregular periods for whatever reason, then fertility window is not really going to help you. Now, you can use fertility window and everything can be going on well, but there are times when fertilization will not happen. And like when in a woman, if she is not bringing out eggs, then of course fertilization will not happen. But you can always tell a woman whose eggs are not really coming out regularly because the period becomes quite irregular. One starts to skip periods by very several months. Like I said, if an egg is shed and it is not fertilized, 14 days later, a period will come. So if a woman doesn't shed an egg then the periods will become irregular, and they'll keep waiting, and finally a period will come after a long time, but then there will be no pregnancy. Then you don't need to use the fertility window. And then there's the women who have blocked tubes. As much as you may be having sex during the fertile time, then the blockage of tubes may not allow the 2 million sperms to go and meet the lovely lady at the fallopian tube. Now, there is one not very common one, not to scare people because it's not very common, but everything could be quite okay. Your husband could be all right giving you the 200 million sperms, and you could be okay having eggs every month, but a few women have what is called antibodies to their husband's sperm. These are not very many. But if everything has been checked and you are not conceiving for some reason, then one of the things to find out is, or to cater for, is to see whether one has developed antibodies against one's sperm. Because if one develops antibodies against the husband's sperm, then the minute the ejaculation happens and sperms are poured into the vagina, then they are totally immobilized and they'll not move to be able to go and meet the egg. Now, the types of reasons why a male would be unable to get a woman to get an egg fertilized is if they were having what is called azoospermia. That is, they were having ejaculate that actually has no sperm. There's no way of telling that a man's ejaculate has sperm or not unless one does microscopic examination, because the ejaculate is not the sperm. The ejaculate is actually the vessel that carries the sperm. But without doing microscopy, you may not be able to know that the man is ejaculating, but ejaculating no sperm. So that time, then the fertility would not happen. Or what is called oligospermia. That means that they are really getting out very, very few sperms. Medically, we feel that there should be at least 20 million sperms to be able, per ejaculate, to be able to do fertilization. Although it takes only one sperm, but the sperm needs to need a lot of company to be able to reach that particular egg. And then there is the times when the sperms can be there, and the sperms can be many, but they may be unable to swim for whatever reason. And one of the commonest changeable reasons is if a man is doing sauna and steam, they will be able to, or rather they will immobilize their sperm because they will actually cook them. Or if a man has what is called varicose veins around the testes, then that hits the sperm and they are not able to move to meet the egg. Like I said, an egg lives 24 hours, so it has to be met within that time or not at all. Now, I've talked a lot and I want to make a disclaimer now at this point, and a number of disclaimers. One of the disclaimers is that it's not every time that the egg meets sperm, it's not every time that the ovum meets sperm that a fertilization happens. And there actually may be nothing wrong. There is something we call God's timing. And it may be just that you are using all the windows that you have and everything is good, but it's just not God's timing. So it could be everything is fine, but you're not getting pregnant, but that is God's timing. The second disclaimer I want to make is that a woman's body is not actually a computer. And even though we say it ovulates at a certain point, ovulation can change due to various circumstances. And you may be expecting to ovulate now and not ovulate, or you may be thinking you finished with the ovulation and actually ovulate. So a woman's body is not a computer. Now, having talked about that window so hard, now finally I want to say this, that if you're really looking for a baby, now I'm not talking to people who are trying to avoid pregnancy. Those ones are pardon. But for people who are trying to make a baby, then the best way is not to actually look at the fertility window unless there is a physical distance between the couple. If there is physical distance, then you can use the fertility window to have somebody physically meet you. But if you are together, the best way to actually make a baby is to have sex at least 3 times in a week. Now, these are not Friday, Saturday, Saturday. That is not helpful. We are talking like Friday and then Sunday and then Wednesday. So we are talking scattered 3 times because, like we said, the sperm lives about 3 days and the egg lives 24 hours. So we want that we flood the whole of the genital system of the woman with sperm so that anytime the egg pops out, then there is a sperm to catch it. So the best way is to actually um, do have sex 3 times, at least 3 times in a week, scattered all over, and then wait, wait. Now, um, if all this fails, you have tried every 3 times in a week. You've tried, if you're far away, you've tried ovulation window, fertility window, and it's not working, and you're not pregnant within about 6 months to a year, then please seek medical advice because there could be something wrong. Now, I get finally, I know there was another finally. Finally, I get asked a lot about how to predict when to get a boy and when to get a girl. This is a question that literally floods my clinic for people who have girls, they want a boy, and people who have boys, they want a girl. And what I tell people is that the best method of making a boy or a girl, making of whatever you want, is actually to get on your knees and tell the giver what you would want him to give you if he would. But leave it to him to decide what is best for you. Now, having said that, there is some medical truths about trying to get a boy or trying to get a girl. The about the getting a boy. There are 2 types of sperm. There is the Y sperm, that is the one that goes and makes a boy, and there is the X sperm that goes and makes a girl. Now, the Y sperm, which is finally the one that makes a boy, has two uh, major things about it. One is that it runs very fast. So if you clear the field and put on your marks all the sperms around, usually the leader will be the Y sperm, usually. Although there are some girl sperms who can really run fast, but usually it will be the boy sperm. So that's one factor known. And the second factor known is that the boy sperm also dies very fast. The Y sperm dies very fast. So when you hear there are some sperms hanging about 3 to 4 days, there are no Ys there. Now it is only X's that are surviving. The woman is a survivor. So if one is trying to make a baby girl, then it is to flood the system with sperm, because usually the sperm of the eggs will live longer. It will move slower and it will live longer. But if one was to know exactly when they are going to ovulate, if you knew that you are going to ovulate tomorrow and you wanted to have chances to make a boy, then you would stay 4 days before tomorrow without having sex so that the system is free of sperm. Then the day before tomorrow, which would be today, you would have sex so that as the egg comes out, The first sperm that will have met it will be the boy sperm. Having said that, again, it's God's timing and it's God's giving, and also that some girl sperms can run very, very fast indeed. Now, I believe I have talked and talked and talked, in fact, until I need some water. And the only thing to say is that I want many, many babies this year. Whether you're going to do 3 times a week sex or whether you're going to use the fertile window when people are away, then we want very, very many Kenyans this year. No, in fact, internationally, we want many people everywhere to be born this year. Now I'm looking for questions, and I can see a question. Hi, doctor, what causes ovarian cyst? Ovarian cyst, in some cases, is natural. Every month, a woman makes an ovarian cyst, what we call follicular cyst. A cyst is a balloon full of human water, body fluids. So in this cyst, every month, during ovulation, a woman makes that cyst. And in the cyst floats the egg. And when the cyst is a certain size, it bursts and lets out the egg. Now, in a few cases, the surface that is surrounding this egg may refuse to burst. So the egg will die in there, but the cyst will keep accumulating human fluid and accumulating human fluid and become what is now an abnormal cyst. So any cyst that is up to about 3 centimeters is still okay. It's a normal kind of cyst, what is called a follicular cyst. There's another kind of cyst called a luteal cyst, and that is a good cyst. It happens when a woman is pregnant and the ovary that gave the cyst, the ovary that gave the egg, makes a cyst to help it manufacture enough hormones for it to support a pregnancy. So there are some good cysts, the follicular cysts that let out the egg, and the luteal cysts that support the pregnancy. Now, any other cysts would be abnormal, whether they are whatever. In polycystic, they are small cysts. In polycystic ovaries, in other cysts, they can be big cysts. And the trouble with them is that because of their weight, they can make the ovary twist. If they reach a certain size, especially if they go beyond about 5 centimeters, they can make the ovary twist and cut off the blood supply to the ovary. So those are cysts. So that's where cyst comes from. Some are natural, some are abnormal, some we don't need to do anything about, but some are so big that we need to do something about them. I hope that answers that question. And Millicent is. The question is, I think Millicent has little children or something. So she wants to know whether we can be holding the meetings a bit later. Maybe a suggestion of a bit later than now when people have settled their children, maybe somewhere around 9:30 or thereabouts. But those are questions we are floating to you to see if it's a better time now at 6 or a bit later. You can suggest the times. I'm not seeing any other question. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other question. I think those were the 2 questions. So if there are no other questions, I will wish everybody a happy fertility. Even for those who are using the fertility window to block babies, may they catch babies, because I like babies to be caught because they are good things. It's nice to have babies and it's nice to populate this world. We were told to do that. And kindly, if you are not conceiving, consult your doctor, because there could be something that can be done. either for you or for your husband. And not getting a baby is if you want a baby, not getting a baby is not a good thing. And if you don't want a baby, getting a baby is a good thing. Yeah. Yes. So we can end it. I think that's about it. And no other question. So bye bye everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome back. Said what you want us to talk about, and we shall talk about it. And yes, keep safe and put on your mask. Yeah, and sanitize your hands. It is absolutely necessary. And those of you who are young enough, below age 45, you can always get the Cervirax, the vaccine against cervical causing human papillomavirus. Yeah, because the only way to deal with viruses is to vaccinate or for the body to kick it itself. But the vaccine helps the body to be able to kick off the actually aggressive one. So, bye bye. We'll see you soon.